Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you.
All right, one other story that is out there besides the convention last night. We'll get back to that here in a couple of seconds. Day 2 of the convention. And preview day 3 is Robert Kennedy Jr.'s vice presidential pick, Nicole Shanahan, was on a podcast yesterday, the Impact Theory podcast, and said they are considering dropping out of the race. They said they have two choices.
There's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of a Kamala Harris and Walt's presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump, or we walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, and we walk away from that and we explain to our base why we're making this decision.
There you go. Well, now she says it's interesting because we did ask the question that it seemed when Harris got in that the Kennedy ticket went down a little bit, and we asked, did they lose the Harris votes? Did they lose those votes to Harris? And are the remaining votes the vast majority would lean Trump? And what I've seen online, I've seen a number of people online that are Kennedy supporters saying, "Oh man, I lean more Trump. Definitely, I lean more Trump than Harris." And really, where Robert Kennedy Jr. says he stands on the issues, I don't necessarily agree that he genuinely believes those things. But if you look at what he says he believes, it is against some of the major tenets of the Democratic Party.
Right. Yeah, sure.
More than it is Republicans.
Well, and it stands to reason that if that were the case, that a lot of his supporters went to Kamala, and then what's left is a group that leans more to Trump. And it's not going anywhere for him. He's not going to gain anything by staying in the race.
Well, as she said, if they can get over 5%, she didn't say it in that cut, but in another part of the interview, I've watched a lot more of it. She said that if they could get over 5%, it would be worth staying in because then they become a political party. Then there is a third party.
She did say about the third party thing. Yes,
which means though that if they're considering pulling out, they don't think they can get 5% of the vote, and so the polling that shows they're down to 3 or 4% would be accurate.
Yeah.
So that is the case at that point, and by no means do they want to see the Democrats back in power. So they would look at Trump as a lesser of two evils that he would wish to that he might wish to serve in the administration of, where Trump said he would consider him for some spot in his administration.
Right.
Which would be fine. You can put people in that help you win, but you, the president, are the ones that set the policy, not the person who works for you.
Right.
Well, in a Republican administration, in the Democrat administration, bureaucrats make decisions all the time, as we know.
Sure. Mayorkas actually has a throne in his house. People don't know that. And I don't mean toilet. It's an actual throne. I could be wrong about that. It could be a rumor I just started. The numbers are interesting to look at, but they are meaningful ultimately if it is the case that really what's left in his support right now leans Trump. The question is, the endorsement is going to mean something to some of them. How motivating is it to people, because we're talking about Trump, that are in some cases never Trumpers? You're not going to get those people. would they go Trump over Harris, or do they stay home? I'd love to see the breakdown on that, but, we won't get that breakdown until November 5th, and that's only if RFK drops out on that question. So, I don't know. The money has to be gone. It has to be, I'm sure he just doesn't have money. It just isn't there. He's not going to get 5%. I don't think he's going to get 5%.
The polling shows he's not going to get 5%. And if they're saying it,
if they're even talking about this openly,
right, then they don't believe they can get 5%. Otherwise, you would not even mention that.
Well,
you would never mention it, because the last thing you want to do is be wishy-washy on where you stand.
And she mentioned it, which means,
right,
which tells me trial balloon. And in other words, she's floating that idea to test the waters on both the reception of maybe, I don't know, Trump people, but also his followers, his support, his supporters, because it wasn't him saying it, but she said it out loud. So that tells me they were just kind of floating that idea, which is a serious consideration, but you're kind of testing the waters or tempering the waters for that announcement, so it's not so much of a shock if he does do that.
Yeah, that's
we'll
what
see.
I would think. That's where it begins.
Mm-hmm.
And so you say, okay, we're contemplating this, and she's
Right.
out there promoting that because she volunteered that.
Yeah.
It's not like they pulled
right.
it out of her. She volunteered it. And if you believe you've got 6%, if you're Robert Kennedy Jr. and believe if you get 5%, that you create that new third party that you can lead, you're going to stick with it.
Oh, yeah, you're not going anywhere.
Right. The only reason you state that we're considering two options is, and we went through the polls for Kennedy before, and the vast majority say between 4 and 5 right now is what he would get in the polls. So if it's down near 4 and they see it's going down as we're getting closer, and it keeps going down as we get closer, then they may just say, well, we do not want, we may disagree with Trump on some things. We disagree with the Democrats on everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it would be interesting to find out what she believes. This is one of the first interviews I've seen of her, because if she's doing interviews, they're not getting publicized, and she is way far left.
Yeah.
She's way far left than Robert Kennedy Jr. claims to be, which was interesting because when she was picked, it was like, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So the fact that she's out there promoting the fact that they would endorse Trump, I think you're right. Maybe, okay, this is a trial balloon. Maybe not even a trial balloon, but
just
it's something
kind of
just to
tempering
soften
the waters.
Right.
To if it does fall out that way. Okay, what would turn it around to get him in a solid position of above 5? I don't see anything.
The bear came to his defense, was resurrected, and came to
An endorsement from the black bear community?
Yeah,
No.
Nothing right
I don't
now.
see that
Nothing.
happening.
Nothing.
They're picketing. Again, it could be a rumor I'm starting just right now, but I understand the bear community is picketing outside of his campaign headquarters. I don't know how they even hold signs, but
well, if he's hoping for a bear market, that wouldn't be a good thing.
He might get a bear market.
But it would be interesting to see if that happens. I think since it's out there, since she put it out there, that they are seriously considering it, and don't be surprised if that happens. Could happen in September. Could happen after Mershon sentences Trump. There's a bunch of different things that could happen, as to when would be the right time to do that. But it's fascinating that she brought it up. As for the DNC second night, in case you're just tuning in, I mean, we covered a lot in the first couple of hours, but just a quick wrap up of it. You and I both saw nothing. You did have, Michelle Obama for her speech where, again, it was about identity politics.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yesterday was about identity politics and class warfare. Now, the interesting thing was the class warfare, part of it came from Pritzker, of Illinois, who was the governor of Illinois, who was attacking Trump for being a billionaire, but a stupid billionaire, where he's a good billionaire. And so now the Democratic Party is now parsing its opinions on billionaires. There's good billionaires and bad billionaires.
Right.
A good Democrat billionaire is a good Democrat. Billionaire is a good billionaire. A Republican billionaire is a bad billionaire. Now, Bernie Sanders didn't say that when he spoke before him.
No.
But Bernie Sanders now, as we know, he used to go after millionaires and billionaires. Now that he's a millionaire because of his public service, and owns multiple homes, now he no longer criticizes millionaires, just billionaires. But it was really amazing to watch it last night, because there's nothing new in this Democrat Party. Nothing. There's no new people. Even the people that are new. Well, Harris is new. Yeah, but they hate her. Everything you're seeing is a lie.
Right.
How do we know that Democrats hate Kamala Harris and don't want her to be there? They talked about it for the last 2 years before Biden dropped out.
Yep.
Democrats didn't want her in there.
Right.
Gavin Newsom was the heir apparent. And then Gavin Newsom did the debate with DeSantis last year, and that sort of fell by the wayside. And then they probably started doing polls on Gavin Newsom and realized America does not wish to be California. So Gavin Newsom didn't even have a prime speaking opportunity at the convention.
Yep.
They are absolutely paranoid to have any new blood of the Democrat Party speak to the public, because they know they are so radical that they have no chance of getting independence. But the amazing thing is, by bringing everybody out, the nostalgia that they brought out, that you're going to get. I mean, the Clinton tonight. Wow. Hillary last night. Michelle and Barack, Obama, who, by the way, flew in on a private jet. Hypocrites, climate change, all that. But the fact is, all they talked about was race and class. And the self-awareness. And I understand somebody called and said, well, it's not that they don't have self-awareness. It's that they believe all the people that vote for them are stupid. Well, it's both.
Yeah.
It's a combination of both.
Well, when you are delusional altogether, you can have everything. You can have it both ways. They can apply everything across the board. And that's exactly what they're doing here. What's the over-under that, by the way, that Bill Clinton will play the saxophone on his way out?
Oh.
If we're going to go old school, just do everything. There is nothing new from the party. There's nothing. You didn't hear anything new from Michelle Obama, from Barack Obama. There's nothing new from the party. They keep pretending, as you mentioned, we noticed they're acting as if Trump is actually in office right now. Michelle Obama mentioning hope is making a comeback. Hope is making a comeback. Well, your nominee is the current vice president. Hope for what? Change from her administration? Where are you going with that, Michelle?
When Obama talked about Barack Obama, when it was just amazing when he talked about the fact that we can have a secure border, but we don't need to separate children from their parents, from the guy who created the cages. And he said that on the same day that the Department of Homeland Security, the Biden administration, came out and said there are 291,000 children that are unaccounted for that crossed illegally into the United States, and we have no idea where they are. I mean, it's just, when you look at all of it, and then with really I never saw class or billionaire warfare being used by a billionaire. I mean, that's where the Democrat Party is today. They bring Pritzker out. All right, you need to attack Trump for being a billionaire. I'm a billionaire. But you're a good billionaire. He's a stupid billionaire. Oh, okay. They'll buy anything that we sell.
Yeah, don't let Elizabeth Warren in the building. But, yeah.
But, I mean, so it's just bizarre. But the thing is, they made such a big stink of what an incredible moment it was when Michelle Obama said, to Trump that the presidency is going to be one of, your black jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, and that relates to Trump talking about illegal immigration and how it is taken. And by the way, you can look this up, that it's accurate. It's taken, the majority of jobs it's taken are black jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And so they went crazy as if Trump was a racist for saying that, when it was the opposite. In fact, you have blacks that said, well, we have no problem with it. When interviewed afterwards, when he said, they goes, well, I got no problem. It's true.
Right.
Jobs are being taken, but yeah, we're getting hit too. They didn't view that as a racist insult. And the Obamas are trying to make that case that it is. And from the people that created the worst racist climate since the civil rights era of the 60s, which was Obama and his anti-cop rhetoric, that he was blaming the cop, and then the Michael Brown incident happened.
Mm-hmm.
And
Professor Gates, that whole thing.
Professor Gates.
Right.
The shooting of the Dallas, the
killing
murders
of the 5 officers here.
Yep, the murders of the 5 officers here, where he actually gave a horrible speech in Dallas about it. The guy that created the racial, that stoked the fire of racial animosity and the radical transgender movement, which is Obama. He's the one that started it.
Yep.
With the whole, the whole thing of men in women's bathrooms and men playing women's sports, all started with Obama. It was his administration that wanted to do it. But they're up there talking and seem to have no self-awareness about anything. And it was almost as if we're just trying to bring nostalgia back, the good feelings of when we were in office. We have nothing new to offer except nostalgia.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's not what's going to convince independents to vote for Harris. 866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
The western heat wave of recent weeks, coupled with fuel buildup the past 2 seasons, has led to significant wildfire activity this summer. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says that has led to
wildfire activity certainly above the 10-year average this year. Roughly 5.4 million acres nationwide has burned so far in 2024, and that compares to the 10-year average of approximately 4.4 million acres.
However, wildfire activity has dropped of late, now down to about 6 active wildfires, most of those across the West.
At present, we continue to see some smoldering and some bigger fires in parts of the Northwest. Nothing like what we saw with the Park Fire near Chico, California, and nothing like what we saw in Oregon, where we had 500,000 acre wildfires burning at the same time.
With the potential of new or reflaring wildfire activity in the northwest quadrant of the country due to an incoming cold front. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So what I saw last night was the fact there's no effort to try to appeal to the independent. Everything is nostalgia, which just is really weird, and race and class warfare. And by bringing back the nostalgia of, we call it the classic rock, the classic rockers of the Democratic Party didn't offer anything new.
Nope.
And the fact that when the Obamas were there, Harris and Walz were not, as we all know, was because of the tension and the anger that exists between Biden and the Obamas.
It's just strange she wasn't there.
No, really strange.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio. from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Some audio cuts that I thought were interesting because when I woke up last night and started going through everything of the day two of the convention, what I saw immediately on social media was the number one thing where even Republicans were saying, boy, that was a great line, was Michelle Obama, using the whole thing and telling Trump that the presidency may be one of your, is one of your black jobs. And that relates to a totally legit point that Trump made that wasn't racist at all. He was simply saying that illegal immigrants are taking lots of blacks a lot of blacks jobs, which is true. We know that from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, who was getting hired.
Right.
And so there's nothing racist about it. It was simply the fact that, they claim he's racist, and he's like, excuse me, I'm the one. Look at the number of blacks. Since you're making the racist accusation, let's back it up and look at this. And that's how you respond. You always respond saying, we don't play the identity politics, but you brought it up. Look at our success in black employment. We want to help everybody. So she used, that as the identity politics, that the Democrats cannot get away from. She just can't get away from it. But when she did that, I said, if I'm an independent, and our standard of both of the conventions is the same, and that's why we were complimentary of much of the Trump convention, the RNC, because you had Trump, especially in the first part, the part people were awake for, that his speech went too long, but he hit all the issues. It was all issue oriented. Here's what we're going to do here. Same thing with J.D. Vance. And the other speakers were saying the same thing. Here are the problems. Here are our solutions. All you're getting is the same old, same old. It's nostalgia for identity politics and class warfare.
Yeah.
It's all you're getting. And I'm watching this saying, this does not. So there's no way this can appeal to the independent. There seem to be playing just for the base. Well, a Democrat member of the Chicago City Council, Ray Lopez, came on Fox News yesterday, said almost the, and when I came to that conclusion, I had not yet seen this interview. And here it is from a Democrat member of the Chicago City Council.
Yeah.
Democrats winning any new voters at this convention?
I highly doubt it. I think this is all playing to their own base, not trying to recruit new people, because clearly the Democratic Party, my party, is not interested in talking about what matters. How are you going to keep people safe? How are you going to secure the border? And how are you going to deal with the 8 million undocumented individuals that they let in under Kamala Harris's lead?
Wow. And they all know it. All Democrats know it. I mean, they know that she's a horrible candidate. They know it. They said it a month ago.
What's interesting here is that it's the culmination of everything in effect right now that the Democrats created themselves and their own party is dealing with on this local level, in this case in Chicago, which just happens to be the place for their convention. And we talked about it when they announced it was going to be in Chicago. We were like, okay, here we go, because we saw it playing out. Every city now is a border city. And Chicago, by the way, has been the focus of media, local media, but also lots of discussion about it because back when the caravans were coming across and they were talking about, well, we're spending, people in Chicago were complaining, you're spending money on people who aren't citizens. You should be spending the money here in our neighborhoods. So Chicago's kind of been the focus on that even before this recent surge. And so This is a growing problem for the Democrats that they created. And a city councilman is, of course, having to answer to his constituents.
Everything that the Democrats are promoting under mild cross-examination fails miserably.
It does.
The attempt to try to frame their convention as if Trump is the incumbent is the one thing that's really interesting, that Trump is to blame for illegal immigration, that Trump is to blame for all these woes that we have today. You can't really sell it. And when it comes down to it, the fact is, if you look at, and I'm going to play this audio cut here from Scott Jennings on CNN yesterday, Democrats have held executive power for the vast majority of the last 16 years.
The gap that I still see in all these speeches, as good as they were, is that she's in the White House right now. Democrats have controlled the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. And for all of the talk about division and the problems in the country and people are hurting, Democrats have mostly controlled this country. Trump had it for 4. The Obamas and Biden had it for the rest of the time. And somehow, it's still all Trump's fault, and somehow she hasn't been at the center of it. So to me, that's still the glaring hole in this campaign that hasn't yet been solved at the convention. How do you explain all of the problems that will be solved by the person who is currently in there for the last 3.5 years, who is supposed to already be working on solving it? But
the other thing is, when we look at the two things that were promoted, that we both immediately came to a conclusion that this is, Monday was cover-up night for why Biden is not the candidate.
Yeah.
And today was class warfare and identity politics night. Let's use race baiting and let's use class warfare. Now, both were interesting because they use Pritzker as one of the, leaders last night to promote against billionaires. Well, Republican billionaires, Democrat billionaires like himself are okay, which was in itself weird that that's how they decided to promote it.
Noble billionaireism.
Exactly. He was billionaire virtue signaling last night.
Exactly.
Wow. He was hoping not to trigger any Democrats that he's a billionaire.
We're the billionaire that cares.
But the other thing on trying to, lay out that Trump is a racist when the evidence doesn't exist, and they've done it both nights by lying about Charlottesville, by lying a bunch of different things that we've mentioned before. But I do think it's an opportunity. One of the criticisms I have of the Republican Party, and I'd said this way back in 2022, I said, look, they've got 2 years to really start educating the public as to what's going on. And, of course, in that long-term communication, they have failed on a number of points. One is to completely turn the identity politics and the whole racism thing around. Republicans have the ability to do it because they have the evidence, and the evidence exists inside the Republican Party, inside the Democratic Party, that has been admitted by the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party knows that they are the party of racism. They know it. They know they're the party of identity politics, where they judge people by groups and not individuals. We know it. They started it against conservative blacks. We see it with critical race theory. All of it is groups think a particular way, and now we've seen the identity politics, and this is how you bring it right up to modern day. They've simply taken their identity politics and said, oh, okay, it's all right now to hate Jews.
Yeah, right.
And that's where they've taken it. The anti-Semitism and the Jew-hating is all part of the racism because of the identity politics, and you pound it. Every surrogate, you pound it. Not just day after day, not once, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. I'm not saying it takes hold next week, but it's extremely effective because the Democrats themselves admit identity politics is a huge problem. That's where Tim Ryan ran against Nancy Pelosi 6 years ago.
Yeah.
6 years ago he ran, and identity politics judging people by groups and not individuals. The racism of the Democratic Party is what he brought up, has to end. And this is another opportunity for Republicans to bring it up. J.D. Vance could bring it up tomorrow. You hear the identity politics? They're the racist party.
Yep.
They're the ones that judge people by groups. We don't. We judge people by individuals. And now they've taken their identity politics where they judge people by groups and not individuals, and that's gone right into their hatred for Jews.
Yep.
Say it. Make them, put them on the defensive on it. They gave you another opportunity last night because that's what they used. They used class warfare and they used race warfare.
Yep.
They've used both of them again, and that is the nostalgia of the Democratic Party from the Obamas and what you have seen of the Democrat Party over the last really 30 years, over 30 years, when they became the party of identity politics and started judging people and stereotyping groups of people. And if you fit that group, then this is what you stand for and this is what you are. And if you're a black and you're a conservative black, you're an Uncle Tom.
Right.
That's where it started.
Yep.
And the incredible thing is the identity politics, the racism, the modern-day racism of the Democratic Party began against blacks.
Yeah.
Where it ended for the Democratic Party
Right.
and their racism with the promotion of slavery and Jim Crow laws. And they took a break for about a decade and a half, and then boom, right back to it.
Yep.
Just calling it by a different name, but it's still the same stink and the same horrible Neanderthal mindset of the Democratic Party, where it's now become mainstream and institutionalized. And it's time the Republican Party fought back. Today is the day that the Republicans should start that and go right after the Obamas for doing it.
And you look at the next 2 days here. You got Bill Clinton on stage, and the liberal media is already propping him up. The Associated Press. His journey since leaving office. His journey.
You think any independent who's getting killed by inflation gives a damn
No.
about the life story
No.
of Bill Clinton
No.
on day 3?
And the question is, do they make any attempt to appeal to the independent?
So far, they haven't. They haven't even attempted to reach out.
So,
Not attempted.
So are they at a point where, we don't even know why. Why would you even try to go pro-fracking? Why is...
Well, nobody's talked about it. Nobody's
except
really,
for her campaign.
Yeah, nobody's really talked about it.
Right. And maybe, who knows? Maybe she's going to answer the way Karine Jean-Pierre will. I'm the sitting vice president, and I can't talk about my campaign because I'll violate the Hatch Act.
One more piece of audio from NBC talking to Harris campaign spokesperson Quentin Folks. You ready? Here we go.
Will there be any notable differences? Is there one policy where you can point to where Kamala Harris would govern differently than President Biden?
Look, I think it's seen as across the board. At the end of the day, for some of the things, when it comes to it, the vice president is listening to voters. This isn't a comparison or contrast. She's been a partner to President Biden as they have delivered a record amount of legislation that has changed people's lives.
No, there's no difference.
None. You just heard it.
I'm telling you, the ammunition that the Democrats give when they're in their own little bubble is invaluable to the Trump campaign.
Zero self-awareness.
Now, the Trump campaign, use it. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, now that the race baiters are finished calling Donald Trump a racist tonight at the Democratic National Convention, it's Bill Clinton talking about Trump is a misogynist.
He hates women. And everyone knows that I love women.
I mean, good God. I mean, it's just
women.
It's such a great opportunity. There's so much material. You know, that's the one thing that if we ever get frustrated at Republicans, it's because we do this for a living, and I know you do just like I do. By the time, we get to the afternoon on any day, the afternoon before we come in, couple of minutes, there's so much material to use against the Democrats, and that's what I see out of the first 2 days. It's been horrible, and it's to the point where Michelle Obama gives a classic rock nostalgia speech and can speak into a teleprompter and tell lies, and that's the level. The level of Republican or Democratic competence is so bad, she's viewed as being great.
Yeah, that's the top.
That's the top.
Yeah.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.